Citrus is easy to grow in warm climates, but it's important to avoid a few key mistakes that many home gardeners make when they're growing citrus. Learn from others' mistakes so you can enjoy delicious fruit for years to come. If we haven't met before, my name's Angela from Growing in the Garden, and I love to share garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful growing your own garden. In today's video, I'm going to cover the 10 biggest mistakes that home gardeners make when growing citrus. The first mistake that home gardeners often make is not trying the fruit before they plant the tree. Citrus trees are long-lived and produce hundreds of pounds of fruit over the course of their lifetime. It is definitely worth it to go to a local nursery and try the type of fruit that you're going to plant before you plant that tree. The second mistake that home gardeners often make is planting the tree at the wrong time of year. Just because a tree is for sale in a big box store does not mean it is the right time to plant it. The best time to plant a citrus tree is in the spring after danger of frost has passed. Citrus trees grow really well in the spring. It is a great time to plant and get those trees established. When temperatures heat up in June through about September, here in the low desert, it is much too hot to plant. There's a second planting window in late fall. Newly planted citrus are definitely more susceptible to freezing temperatures. The third mistake that new gardeners often make is not allowing enough room for the trees to reach their mature size. It's tempting to overplant and to plant a lot of trees in a small amount of space. But for the health of the tree, for enough sunlight and airflow for the tree, it's best to allow the tree to have enough room to grow to maturity. There are 3 different size types for mature citrus trees. Average sizes for standard are 20 to 25 feet tall and 16 to 18 feet wide. Semi-dwarf trees are 12 to 15 feet tall and wide. Dwarf citrus trees are about 10 to 12 feet tall and 9 to 11 feet wide. Dwarf varieties produce the same quality and size of fruit, but yield about half as much fruit. Our fourth mistake is one of the biggest mistakes that people make when planting citrus trees, and that is planting the citrus tree too deeply. Citrus trees are grafted onto a rootstock. Do not bury the graft. Instead, plant at the level of the root ball. Push that dirt back until the tops of the roots are exposed, and that is the level that you need to plant your citrus tree at. When you're digging your hole, dig it just that deep, not any deeper, and then 3 to 5 times as wide. If a tree is planted too deeply, it will often have problems for life. It is more susceptible to disease and pest problems. It also will have less production, and ultimately a lot of fruit trees that are planted too deeply end up dying. Our fifth mistake comes when we think we're doing something really good for the plant, and that is when we're refilling that hole that we planted for the tree, we add in lots of rich soil and compost. Instead of helping the plant, you're actually hurting that tree. You're telling the tree that you don't have to branch out and explore and send those roots out nice and deep and wide. You can stay right here in this little hole, and I'm going to give you everything you need. Backfilling with native soil stimulates those roots to go deep and wide. Backfilling with compost and rich soil creates a smaller root system and a weaker tree. Mistake number 6 is not watering citrus deep enough. Problems with citrus can often be traced back to incorrect watering. Learning how to correctly water your citrus tree is one of the most important things you can do for the health of your citrus tree. Your citrus tree is going to give you signs that it needs water. If you see those leaves curling up, that is a sign that it is under water stress and it needs water. If the leaves are nice and shiny and open up, maybe even curling down a little bit, that citrus tree has plenty of water. Newly planted and young citrus are going to need water more often than older established citrus. Their root systems are not as developed and they will need water more often. Once established, citrus trees do best with deep, slow, infrequent watering. The goal is to water the citrus trees to a depth of at least 18 to 24 inches and ideally to 3 feet. How do you tell how deep you're watering? You can get a soil probe, looks like a long screwdriver basically, and put that in the ground, and that soil probe will penetrate as deep as the water is. So if you've watered to a nice deep depth, that soil probe is going to go into the ground easily. Watering deeply encourages the roots to go deep. And that's exactly what we want for our trees. We want those roots to develop nice and deep below ground. Watering too often can also cause harm to your plants. Citrus roots need air as well as water, and if you're constantly putting water on the citrus, it's drowning those roots and the tree can rot. The seventh mistake that happens way too often is skirting or over-pruning citrus trees. What is skirting? Skirting is removing the lower branches on the citrus tree. Citrus is actually a large shrub that's grown as a tree. And when you remove those lower branches, first of all, you're exposing that bark to sunlight. But if you leave those branches in place, those lower branches actually cool the soil and help that soil retain more moisture. The fruit on those lower branches is often the best fruit on the entire tree. So when you remove those lower branches and skirt that citrus tree to make it look like a lollipop, you're often removing the best fruit on that tree. What you do need to prune are any dead branches or crossing branches or any suckers, long, tall shoots that come out below the graft union, or long, fast-growing shoots heading straight up. Don't prune in the summertime. Pruning in the summer exposes new areas of bark to the sun. If you're constantly cutting off new growth on your citrus, you're reducing the amount that citrus tree is going to produce. Our eighth mistake is not fertilizing citrus. Citrus produce a lot of fruit and they are heavy feeders and they need fertilization in order to do well and produce that fruit. Citrus leaf discoloration and pale citrus leaves are often caused by nutrient deficiencies. Those trees will often be lacking in iron or magnesium and nitrogen. So how do you fertilize citrus? You use an organic fertilizer formulated for citrus. It's going to have some of those trace minerals that citrus trees need. Follow the directions for the amount and size of your tree, remembering to give water before and after you apply that fertilizer. Here in the low desert, it's easy to remember when we fertilize our citrus trees. It's Valentine's Day, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. Your citrus trees will have what they need to produce that beautiful big fruit that we love so much. The ninth mistake is exposing bark to sunlight. Citrus bark is easily sunburned. It's important to protect exposed bark from the sun. The easiest way to protect that bark is by not skirting your trees. But if there is exposed bark on your trees, it's important to either wrap it using a lightweight, flexible wrap, wrapping all of the exposed bark on that tree, or by painting with a paint formulated for citrus trees and applying that to the trunk of the tree. And that will help protect the tree from sun damage. Mistake number 10 is not harvesting all of that delicious fruit. Citrus harvests usually begin in late fall and carry over into spring. Depending on the type of citrus you're growing, you're going to have a several-week window of when to harvest that fruit. The best way to tell if that citrus is ripe is to try it. Often, if one citrus is ripe on the tree, then all of them are ripe. At the end of that window when they're ripe, those citrus begin to get soft. They'll often begin falling to the ground. It's important at that point to get all of this citrus off of your tree. Leaving the fruit on your tree invites pests like bugs, insects, and rats to your tree, and that can cause a lot of different problems. It's also very helpful for the tree to have that fruit removed so it can shift its focus to producing blossoms for your tree. Now you know the 10 biggest mistakes that home gardeners often make when growing citrus trees. You can avoid making those same mistakes with your own citrus trees. Thank you so much for watching.